or into the lens, or can I just look at you? No, I need to look into the hole. My name is Liefia Ingalls. I'm a professional Strongwoman competitor, multi-time California Strongest Woman, and winner of the first ever Women's Professional Strongwoman Championship. I'm here at Untamed Strength, and we are doing Strongman Seminar events. We covered log, stones, and yoke carries. I hope you guys enjoy these. These are going to be some good information if you're either picking up the implements for the first time or if you're just looking to advance your game a little bit in competition. There'll be some things that you can work on. If you are looking for advice outside of videos, you can contact me at unicornstrength.com. You can find me on Instagram at Unicorn Strength Training, and also under my name. I guess it's probably spelled in there somewhere. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram as well. I do online training, customized programming, and remote coaching as well. So if you're interested in taking some of these a little bit further, or just looking for some better change in your strength training program, let me know.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Great. I want you to walk away with the confidence to approach the implements and use them in your training. And if you're just trying to get a little bit better, then I want you to walk away with new technique points that are going to help you improve your competition. But for everybody, like when I set out to do this, my goal, my take-home goal for all of you guys is to be able to be a little bit more analytical about the events, right? So that's what I'm hoping that you see. I'm hoping that you see log clean and press is not as simple as just doing a log clean and press, right? It's a lot of other component movements. So getting better at that movement involves getting better at a lot of other smaller pieces. And we'll talk a little bit after this about like general programming considerations too, but a big thing in Strongman is like, well, the events are these events, or I'm doing Strongman stuff, so I must just do Strongman stuff all the time. But the other thing you're gonna notice is that the Strongman events themselves are very taxing, very difficult to set up, very time consuming. So there's also more efficient ways to train and get better at those events without having to do them all the time, right? If you just do Strongman events as they are all the time, you're gonna beat yourself to shit. You're gonna be hurt all the time, you're never gonna be able to recover, and you're just gonna be too tired, right? Also, like the log is a really good example, and then stones too. If you've got a piece of that lift or that movement that's weak, and you just keep doing it the same way over and over and over, you're not really improving it. You're just reinforcing that pattern. So let's talk about stones. I'm gonna demo, and Chris will talk, and we'll try not to fight.
So normally on this we wear the Olympic shoes. She doesn't have those, I don't think.
Should I put them on? Will that,
yeah.
Can you guys just imagine that I'm wearing them?
I guess that works.
Okay.
So the first thing we do, well, first thing you want to do is make sure the stone's where you want it in relation to the platform. A lot of people are too afraid to get close to it because they think they're going to hit their head on it. So they end up with the stone really far away, and then you end up loading it in the air and you're like 1.5 feet away from the platform, and you got to walk over, wasting tons of energy. Basically, you want to get about as close as you can to the platform and still be able to clear this with the stone once you open up. So normally that's, I think Liefia's got it set up pretty well.
So a good stone load, even if it's a medley and you have to change position in between loads, a good stone load doesn't move. Okay, so you shouldn't have to back up or get forward to the platform. So part of getting good at stones is going to be getting really good at being spatially aware of how far you need to be on the platform. And that's going to be different for each person. So getting a feel of like, I know when I get my arms out and I set the edge of the platform, I know what this position needs to feel like for me to have a good distance, right? So getting just good practice.
Measurement's actually really good. Just kind of here, right?
Yeah.
So kind of like somewhere towards the wrist, bent arms.
It's going to change for you, but I say typically start at like arm's distance, but be able to put your wrist, like the line underneath your palm, on the platform or on the bar, right? So you're a little bit shorter than arm's distance away. And then from there, make adjustments. So if it's still too far, scoot up. If it's too close, you can scoot back.
Now, for foot positioning, what we do is the big toe knuckle should split right through the center of the stone. So on both sides, big toe knuckle right through the stone, and about as close as you can get to the stone without your feet being directly under the stone, right? So kind of like here, right? You want to obviously leave some space for your hands to get in there.
As narrow a stance as you can get is going to help you with extension. So when you load a really big stone, if this stone is much wider, I might have to start out here in order for room, but in order to extend well at the top, I'm going to need to have my feet underneath me, right? So as close as I can get them underneath, the more control I am and the more I'm able to execute like a good extension forward.
Now it's hand placement. Basically, you want to stick the hands in underneath the stone as far as you can go. Basically, one of your fingers should basically be getting crushed between the floor and the stone. If you're digging in too shallow, as soon as you start pulling that thing up, it's going to have a tendency to slide.
So go palms open, right? So you get cover more surface area with your hands, and you want your hands basically as deep as they can go. You're not really going to be able to hold the stone in your hands, right? So you're trying to get as much surface area of your arms on the stone as possible. So all the way in, like you're trying to touch the fingers together and then crush between.
Yeah, think of your hands like hooks, right? Basically, you want to hook it underneath that stone, and this part of your forearm should be trying to crush that stone right through the center.
Okay, once you're getting the stone off the ground, so I'll get this out before I go. So I'm crushing together here. You want to be like squeezing together
like
at the arms, like I'm trying to crush, like hug it to death, right? But you don't want to curl, okay? So that's a pretty big one. I think most people have heard, like don't try to mess with the bicep in there. Don't try to curl it in. So I want to get the stone to my lap, but I'm going to do that with my hips, right, with my hamstrings. So instead of here.
So hooks as deep as you can, squeeze tight. Now she's in kind of an RDL position. Alright, so if you saw what she did there, arms were straight, right? The hips are kind of high. You don't want to squat down all the way. You kind of like, it's basically starts kind of like an RDL position. And from there, it's basically stand up. Once you clear the knees, then you just kind of sit down and give it a spot to sit. Pull it in to the chest again. Once she's in her lap, it's going to be very similar to what we were doing with the log, right? So you kind of sit down to it and you pull it in. You want it planted here, right? You don't want to be down here and you don't want to be too far over it. You kind of get a nice balance so that the stone can rest on your legs and get your arms over it and start to pull it into the chest. So if you want to show, once you get it into the lap, how you start bracing for the next movement. Alright, so into the lap, now get the arm position. So here she's at about 10 and 2, alright? 11 and 1. Basically, like the arms being over it are going to allow you to basically open up that extension when you actually go to load the stone. Additionally, having your arms extended like that, you can basically start to retract and pull the arms in and get that stone planted. Like you want it planted as high as you can go. Especially when you start getting into platforms like this, you're gonna have it planted almost up here. Normally, when you go into like say 48 or 50, it's gonna be somewhere around like the middle of the sternum. If you start planting it lower and lower, that's okay. Obviously, if you're going over something low, but once you start trying to get open up here, basically what you're going to be trying to do is getting that stone to roll up, right? If you start here, it's not going to have anywhere to go. Your arms are going to start to do this, and you're not going to get the height that you need.
So we're approaching this right now. This would apply to like a large or heavy or difficult stone load, right? So we're starting with the most like safe and stable position because that's where you're going to need to go when it gets really heavy, but you'll adjust some of this a little bit. So like you said about the high pin, like when this is like a lot lighter, it's not going to matter. I'm not going to need to load the stone up here for this stone that's this size for me. But as this stone gets bigger and I get closer to a max, I'm going to need to have that more and more. Right? So we're trying to start with that position. Same thing here, like we'll talk about a couple people asked me about one motion stone loads. So we'll go over those after. This is more of like, this is like the technique that's more inclined towards a more difficult stone load, but it's where you should be starting.
Once that stone's in the lap, again, you're kind of like in a sort of semi-squat position, right? You got the chest pressed against the stone and you get your arms at your 10 and 2 and you start to pull into the sternum. And then you'll see her hips are going to shift forward underneath the stone, right? Turning her upper body kind of into a ramp. And then her arms are going to start to basically extend upward like this. And again, keeping that pressure into you. If you let that pressure out, the stone's going to drop out. So keep it pulled into the chest, drive the hips underneath it, and then start to open up. And then once, like if she's going really high platform, she'll even get on the toes, right? Get that full extension, and then lean forward onto the platform.
So I hear a lot of people like cueing a squat, and it's not a squat, right? So front squat is a similar movement, and like being strong at front squat will help you, but you're not squatting the stone, right? If I'm squatting the stone, where's the stone gonna go? Up. And it doesn't need to go up, it needs to go forward, right? It needs to go in an arc of both forward and up, but it needs to go a lot more forward than it needs to go up, right? Especially if I've got a good pin position. So when I'm thinking about extending, it's all about getting this hip extension forward, driving the hips through like we did on the log. I'm not thinking about moving up. I'm not thinking about standing up with the stone or pulling the stone up. I'm thinking about trying to drive my hips through the stone and the platform as much as I can forward. Not too far.
So if you see, she didn't waste any energy trying to get the stone onto the platform. A lot of people are either, they're gonna try to get really, really high so that they know they clear it and then come over, kind of like slam dunk it on the other side. What she's basically doing is once she's in this position, she knows exactly how much she needs to open up and how much force she needs to generate from the hips to basically glance it right over the edge. And that's just gonna save energy and time. And speed, like it really, like just being able to produce just the right amount of force to get it over, and that's really more of an experience thing. Eventually, you just start to know how much force you need to generate, and kind of like when you can project forward into the platform.
So for like people that I'm training that have a difficult time figuring out height, like by all means, if you can't get it high enough to clear the platform, because you'd rather get it up than not at all. But once you start to get consistent and you know you can get to the top of the platform or clear the bar every time, then you want to start cutting down some of that extra movement, right? Because if I load it this much higher every time, it's that much more energy I'm spending that I didn't need. Also, I don't know if we talked about legs. We talked about foot position. You want your feet like as close to the stone as possible. I end up exerting a lot of control over the stone with my legs, especially for like events. Like if it's platform, you just load it, leave it, you're gone on to the next one. But for one, it gives me tactile feedback about where I am in relation to the stone without having to look. So I find that really valuable. And then the other thing being like with the stone over bar for repetitions, when that stone is loading, you want to be able to return it to the same place each time. And a lot of times it's going to roll at you or through you, and it's pretty expensive and clumsy to try and like stop it with your hands. So I actually, keeping that like distance between my legs allows me to stop the stone and catch it where I need to without having to like reset every time. Okay, try higher.
Yeah. So again, toe knuckle through the middle. Right? She's gonna go ahead. Let's speak. Right. So crush the stone. Pull it into the lap. Right. Pull it into the chest. Far extension on the arms, hips under and forward. And then you see she finished on her toes, and she kind of leaned into it. Anyway, into it, they'll project it, but they'll actually push themselves away from the stone. And now there's all this space, and it won't actually go over. It'll get stuck, and then they're trying to catch up to it. It drops, and they lose it. So keep your body weight against it. Like you want to project into the stone, but you want to go with it.
You're trying to push through it.
Yeah, you want to be on the stone, right? That thing should never really be away from you.
So my hips are trying to push through. When I'm thinking about loading the stone, I'm not even thinking about going up at all. I'm literally thinking about trying to drive myself through the stone, and then on the extension trying to drive through the platform.
You want to show them your scars?
You want to know how I got these scars?
And our scars remind us that the past is real.
So
If you guys lift the stones, you probably have some scars.
yeah, so well these aren't really, yeah they are scars. I got messed up arms. So you'll get these from the stones themselves, training without Tacky, and you'll get it from the Tacky also. How many of you guys have trained with Tacky before or used it in competition? Yeah, so you should use it. I get that question a lot. It's similar to like other support equipment like straps and suits and all of those other things. Like there's a time and a place for all of it. So at the very least, if you're gonna use it in competition, you should be using it in training sometimes so that it's not a thing that you fuck up when you get there, right? So you know what you're doing. But that being said, it is going to change like how you execute the stone. So if I load without Tacky, I'm gonna be limited by how much I can crush here, right? So how much I can hold. So my chest strength, my back strength is gonna come into play a lot more, my grip. With Tacky, it's gonna allow me to kind of smooth over that, ignore that part, and then I'm gonna be limited by how much my hamstrings and my back and my glutes can handle loading. So different effects for different purposes. I would train Tacky-less sometimes, and with Tacky other times, depending on what you're going for.
Normally when we do stones, we'll start off Tacky-less, and just to kind of get those muscles to engage and really focus on crushing the stone, because that crushing power will come in handy as well when you put the Tacky on. You start getting into the really heavy stones, it's going to be a combination of crushing it and using the Tacky to your advantage. So warming up Tacky-less, and then once you get to a point where it's becoming an issue or you're struggling, that's when you throw the Tacky on and you keep progressing.
So for brand new loaders, like if it's your first time, don't worry about Tacky yet. Just learn how to lift the stones at lighter weights. That's fine. You're going to be limited by how much you can load, but that's a piece of the lift that you need to work on anyways.
Tight. One tight hits forward, gets. That's what I said. Come on. There you go. One tight, scoop the hips through. You see what happened there? As soon as you started going, you stood up and the stone started dropping out. You didn't really get the hips underneath it before you lifted. Here, right? Now the stone's kind of curling here and I have all the space underneath the stone, right? If I'm here, I can pull it in and now it's like all this has contact on it, right? And now when I shoot the hips forward, it's already connected, like it's already touching the stone. Right? You don't want to come from like behind the stone and then try to come into it, right? You want to be pressed up against it before you even start pushing those hips into it.
So you're not really sitting down with it like this. You're
right there.
You're here.
Yeah.
And then there.
Yeah. Much better. Don't ever put your arms under the stone like that. Like this. Don't try to catch it like that.
Like after it's coming down?
Yeah, just get out of the way.
Okay.
Yeah, don't ever try to save a stone. That,
Let it go.
you can make a new one. But I've had people try to do that, they smash their fingers, they tear their fingers. Just let go. If it's not going, let go.
Hands go wide, fingers deep, and arms stay long, so up to up. I know you can do an RDL. Yes. Okay, sit back on your heels. Right, and you're gonna tuck in, pull the stone back, and now shoot your hips so your hips come forward. Okay. So remember, once I'm set here, don't pick up this feet. Okay, so you actually had a pretty good load and you were gonna clear it, but you took a step forward and then almost crushed your hands into the platform. Okay, so stay, do it again, but stay where you're at. So pin it in, hold it real tight against your chest, and then hips through, feet stay. It's so soft. That was not so bad.
Good. I didn't suck as much.
So keeping in one place helped you quite a bit, right?
Okay.
Allow you to actually get that extension without losing the momentum. You want that forward momentum. Right? So the first time you started to get up and the stone starts coming forward and it freaked you out, so you're like, oh, I have to go with it. You don't need to go with the stone. The stone's going away, you're staying there. Okay. To the left, there you go. Pull it in. Keep it pin tight and up through. Nice. That
The
was
little
better.
kittens didn't even wake up.
Didn't even wake them up.
Yes.
Push. Yep. And. But I want you to go more forward, okay? So you were coming into this position here, but once it hit, it came back, right? If you would have kept pushing into it, it would have kept moving, okay? So just try to learning how to use your momentum to drive you forward, right? Instead of having to lift it the whole way. Let's go one more. Chill out fast. Oh, pull it back. Okay, take a breather. Reset your feet. Okay, big hip hop, scoot forward. Squeeze. Take a big breath. Brace. There you go. Put it on your lap. Good. So take a little breath. Roll it in tight. Put it in close to your chest. And now scoop fast. Okay, hips towards knee. Scoop them under. Explode. Yep. Big breath. Yes. Good. Pull it in real tight to your chest. Hug, 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 hug. Scoop fast. Yeah. How about you weigh 148?
Yeah.
150? See, it weighs more than your body. Just put it
Just
on the
hurts.
thing. Look at that. Hands cut right through the middle.
Got it.
Elbows straight.
So you know,
Crush
I
it.
actually saw a step from you before where one foot
Okay,
was
hips up.
Way more energy than just floating it.
Right. Well, I can't get right. Okay, let's go. Let's get up here. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. Yes. I think yes.
Okay. Crush and pull. Big breath. Good. Throw it in. Throw it in. Good. Take a big breath.
Don't waste it.
Good. Breathe. Okay. Then explode. Fast, 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 fast. Yes.
Nice.
Yay! That's why I'm doing it for you, because I didn't think that you would do this right on your own. So. I know it hurts.
Skin. This hurts worse than these
Alright, so now take a little piece like that, like similar in your fingers. Pinch it like a little like pea-size amount, and try to spread it as best you can, like across your palms, and like spread it out
Don't
across
do
your
it
hands.
to the degree of.
Yeah! Alright, now take a big breath, roll it in hard, pin it to your chest and explode. Yes! Yeah!
Oh, yeah. Fuck. Shit hurts.
My team wins! Yes! Roll it in. Tight and breathe. Scoop, go! Yay!
Pretty easy.
Yeah, you